Alright, it is,
Patapi.
my computer's restarting.
Oh no. Oh.
Sorry about that, guys. So what is going on? It is May 7th, 2025. It is 7:08 as I'm making this video. As you heard, my computer's restarting, and, well, so is my fandom. I'm just kidding. But, the Steelers traded George Pickens away today, and I have a lot to say. I have a lot to talk about. Kind of came as a shock. I didn't actually think we were going to do it. I thought the rumors were baloney, and, well, I have to eat my words. So here I'm going to talk about it next on No Buts About It. So what is going on, guys? It is Chus here, back from the No Buts About It show, and today, well, I am stunned. I really am. I didn't actually think that this day would come where George Pickens would no longer be a Steeler going into the 2025 season, and, well, he is no longer a Steeler going into the 2025 season. He is now a Dallas Cowboy. Cue up my reaction to this.
No.
Yeah, so it's been a little tough back here down in Pittsburgh. But in the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to be the worst thing in the world, but I want to kind of break down everything and kind of talk about it all, because it is a lot, and I feel like our emotions, including mine, are kind of getting in the way of the whole perceived notion of what they're doing. Maybe they are doing something, maybe they're not, but I'm going to kind of try to break it down as best as I possibly can, because I really can't see a positive in it right now, but maybe down the road there is a positive, but we'll see. And yeah, let's get into it. So to start, the Dallas Cowboys acquired George Pickens today and a 2026 6th-round pick in exchange for a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 5th-round pick. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, the problem is we kind of have the recency of the last couple of wide receivers getting traded, and, you know, with Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson, and, you know, we got a little bit more than we did for George Pickens, especially that second-round pick for Chase, but make it make sense. So, to be honest, I don't think the value of this trade was all there. This trade reminded me of March 2019 when the Antonio Brown trade happened, when the Steelers acquired a 3rd and a 5th-round pick in exchange for Antonio Brown. And the thing about that was, although that trade was similar, Antonio Brown at the time was in a dispute with the team. There was a lot of contract issues. There was just a lot of issues in general at that moment. So the Steelers just kind of dumped him and just kind of got whatever they could for him. Also at the time, Antonio Brown was also a 9-year vet. George Pickens is in his 4th season. He's still on a rookie contract, and he's getting the same value that Antonio Brown did when he was in his 9th year. I mean, that is crazy to me. And George Pickens is, although maybe not as talented as Antonio Brown, or maybe he is, don't kill me for saying that. I don't know yet. I mean, we never seen him with a competent quarterback. But to be fair, I mean, in the last 3 seasons, he's almost pushing 3,000 yards. He had 1,100 yards in 2023 under Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and all of the quarterback carousel that went on in Pittsburgh that year. And, I mean, his best games were with Mason, in my opinion. But point being is that he had 1,100 yards that season. That's really good. And then last season, he had 900. And then his first season, he had like 850, I think. Either way, I mean, he's pushing almost 3,000 yards. This guy, I feel like, is worth way more than a 3rd and a 5th-round pick, especially when you can get a 2nd-round pick for someone like Chase Claypool, who only finished at the highest in his career with 800 receiving yards. Now, the problem, though, with the Chase Claypool move in comparison to the 5 wide receivers that I'm going to highlight, including George Pickens, that the Steelers have traded in the last 15 years, there's a trend in the value that we've gotten for wide receivers. Chase Claypool is an outlier that we have to remember, and I'll explain here in a second. So, to start, we're taking it back to April of 2010 with Santonio Holmes, Super Bowl MVP for the Pittsburgh Steelers, traded away to the New York Jets in exchange for a 5th-round pick. In 2024, the Pittsburgh Steelers trade away Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for cornerback Dante Jackson and a 2024 6th-round pick. In March of 2019, Antonio Brown is sent to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for a 3rd-round and a 5th-round pick. Just now, on May 7th, 2025, George Pickens is sent to the Dallas Cowboys with a 6th-round pick in exchange for a 3rd and a 5th-round pick. And lastly, Chase Claypool is sent to the Chicago Bears at the trade deadline in exchange for a second-round pick. Are we noticing something here? Maybe. Now, the trend that I'm noticing is in 4 of the 5 trades, 4 of which took place in the offseason. 2 in March, 1 in April, 1 in May. May 1 being Pickens, April being Santonio Holmes, DJ being in March, and Deontay Johnson also being in March. Chase Claypool, the outlier, the second-round pick, the one at the trade deadline, the one that went to the Bears. The thing about the situation at the time was, obviously, it's the trade deadline. But number 2, the Bears needed a wide receiver, or they desperately claimed they needed a wide receiver for Steelers legend Justin Fields. And at the time, at the trade deadline, they were in a bidding war with division rival Green Bay, who also needed a wide receiver at the time. So, what did the Bears do? Well, they still needed the wide receiver. Chase Claypool was supposedly the best wide receiver on the market, and the Bears didn't want Green Bay to get him. So they overbought for Chase Claypool, who isn't anywhere even close to the same value as somebody like George Pickens or Antonio Brown. And they overbought for him, and he ended up not working out. And neither did Justin Fields, as Justin Fields is now a New York Jet. Ironically enough, we talked about Antonio Holmes, who was also a New York Jet when he was traded, though Justin Fields was not traded to the Jets. He left in the offseason, but I digress. So my point with the argument about the Chase Claypool value and everything is, well, it's a very situational trade for Chase Claypool. If you notice all the other 4 trades that I've mentioned with wide receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last 15 years, they've all been 3rd, 5th round, or 6th round picks, none of which have been any higher than a 2nd round pick, except for Chase Claypool, who was at the trade deadline. Now, I might be missing some wide receivers, but those were the ones that I've mentioned, and if you notice, like I said, they're all 3rd, 5th, 6th, they're all around the same. And although we value George Pickens to be a higher valued wide receiver, the problem with it is when you're in the offseason, other GMs aren't going to value it. It's really, in a situation with Claypool, it was very in the moment and what the value was at that given moment. Right now, the Cowboys and the Steelers, once again, it looks like the Steelers are trying to dump Pickens, which I thought also is very weird. But the Cowboys are probably only giving so much value to Pickens because he is in his last year, and there's no guarantee that Pickens stays with the Cowboys, especially with somebody like CeeDee Lamb, when Pickens wants to be that wide receiver 1. That being said, the value is probably a little bit lower than somebody trying to trade for their top wide receiver who might be on a longer tenured contract. Like if we were trying to trade DK Metcalf, who was 25 and in a 5-year extension, it might be a bigger trade, but since Pickens is in his last year, and according to reports, it looks like Dallas is going to let him ride out this 4th year and then figure it out. Yeah, the writing's on the wall about why his value's there. Now, moving past the value for a second, the timing. Was this the right time? You could argue either way. In my opinion, at first, I didn't think it was the right time. And I don't know if I fully am convinced that this was the right time. I mean, this has been an argument for the Steelers for years. Why don't you have any energy to go get yourself a wide receiver too? You have Pickens, he's great. You just need somebody else that's also as good, if not better, than George Pickens. And they finally get somebody in DK Metcalf to be with George Pickens so that Pickens can be open, DK Metcalf can now be open, and it creates this beautiful wide receiver room. And now you're getting rid of it, and now you're back to square one with DK Metcalf and not George Pickens, and now you have to just hope for the best with your wide receiver room. Make it make sense. But I can kind of see where it can maybe make sense. So if you don't know, now you know. George Pickens is in his 4th and final year of his contract. And I think that Mike Tomlin, the Steelers organization, weren't looking at it in a malice way. They were looking at it in a long-term spectrum that we're probably not going to end up re-signing this guy, and we're in a developmental period with quarterbacks. Probably worth more to trade him now than see how well he does and try to either trade him at the deadline or let him walk at the top of March, because more than likely, number one, he's probably not going to want to extend with us, and number two, I don't know if we can afford to extend him. Because the thing is They already mentioned that they want to give George Pickens top 5 wide receiver money, but they already paid DK Metcalf $150 million. You got TJ Watt coming up on contract. If you want to keep him around, you got to extend him. You have a lot of contracts and different things coming up that you're going to have to pay other players for, and George Pickens just might not be in the cards for that. You could have him stick around and trade him at the trade deadline, but there's one of two ways that it could go. Number one, morale could already be down. Maybe George Pickens' value is already down, and you're going to get nothing more than a 3rd and 5th round pick for him anyway. Or maybe you get a little bit of a higher value because you end up in a bidding war with 2 teams and you end up having a Chase Claypool situation where you get a 2nd round pick and the value's higher. It's a possibility. Or these quarterbacks have insanity runs and next thing you know, your team's 8-0, and would you want to trade George Pickens away? No, probably not. And with the unlikeliness of us winning a playoff game this season, regardless of us starting 8-0, George Pickens is probably going to be mad because we lost that playoff game. Or maybe we go on to win the Super Bowl. Either way, I still don't know if you're going to be able to afford to extend him at that point in time. Maybe you franchise tag him. Well, would he be receptive to a franchise tag, especially in the circumstance? If you lose in the wild card again or you don't make playoffs, will he sit out? Will he still demand a trade? Maybe his value ends up lower because his contract is too high because it's a franchise tag and a team isn't going to want to pay a crazy sum of money to have him for 1 year. You don't know, because at that point maybe his value is a 6th round pick. I mean, you just don't know all these circumstances, and I think the Steelers aren't trying to necessarily screw us. I think they're just trying to think long term by ripping the Band-Aid off now. And who knows? We have not 12 compensatory picks, but we do have 12 picks, and I think that maybe we utilize some to get a wide receiver, or maybe we sign one. Who knows? But at the end of the day, maybe it is for the best. Maybe. It's just tough. I mean, the problem is at the end of the day, it's just tough. I'm trying to look at it optimistically. It's just hard because we finally got that wide receiver too. ESPN, different social medias were calling DK Metcalf and George Pickens possibly the best wide receiver duo in the NFL going into 2025, and we're never going to get the chance to see that. Instead, we're going to get to see CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, which for me, it's not going to be as fun, especially for the Cowboys, because I'm really not that big of a Cowboys fan. But, I mean, maybe there's optimism at the end of the day. Maybe. I don't know. Like I said, it's really a big bummer. But maybe at the end it wouldn't have worked out. We know that George Pickens can get angry sometimes, and maybe morale for him and for the entire team would have been really, really down if whoever the quarterback ends up being doesn't end up panning out, or doesn't get George Pickens the ball, or we're losing games 31-10, or we're losing games 14-10, 14-6, whatever the case may be. We're in a similar situation that we've been the last couple of seasons, and most of our wide receivers are getting no more than like 50 yards a game. I just don't know. So maybe, like I said, it worked out for the best. Maybe they knew this ahead of time, and that's why they're making the move now, like I said, to rip the Band-Aid off for all of the reasons I've listed before. But as mentioned, it just doesn't make any sense to not have a plan if you're going to trade away your wide receiver too. Even if he is in his last year of his contract, if you don't have anybody to replace him like you did in all the other trades, it just got to make it make sense. And right now it doesn't make sense. And I'm hoping in a couple of months or even a couple of days or a couple of weeks, maybe sooner, we'll have more of an idea of why this trade happened. So we'll see. That being said, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear your opinions of the George Pickens move in the comment section below, whether you're a Steelers fan, a Cowboys fan, or not a fan of either team and you're just an outside team looking in. I've seen a lot of teams such as Ravens fans, Titans fans, etc., say that this is a trade that both teams have lost in. I would love to hear your opinions on that. If you have an opinion on that, do you think that Pickens is going to pan out in Dallas? Do you think the Steelers making this move now is a good idea? Regardless, let me know in the comment section below what you think of the trade. That being said, if you enjoyed the content, leave a like. Give us a subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content. We post stuff all the time. Josh, who runs the whole thing, is constantly posting content, and we do a show usually weekly during the season, a couple times during the off season. We post a lot of off season content as well. He posts a lot of Bengals stuff, so if you're a Bengals fan, definitely stick around for that. But we also post all NFL teams, so it's not just Steelers and Bengals, though we are very saturated in that department because we're Steelers and Bengals fans. So we're obviously going to lean more into that because we have more knowledge. That being said, though, we do touch on all the teams and all different players. So we have a little bit for everyone. So definitely subscribe if you're an NFL fan. That being said, here we go, Steelers.